Hey guys, welcome to week 2 of Mpai 610 here at Georgetown University. I just want to again, as I mentioned last week, I like to use YouTube a lot to review the past week and focus on the future week. So what I want to do is focus on last week, kind of two main issues, the strategic and tactical warning and intelligence politicization. And these are you're gonna see these in the South China Sea module. You also kind of see this with Ukraine a lot. We'll get into that discussion in a future module, but those are the two key issues. So strategic versus tactical intelligence. The intelligence community, again, or any entity to that respect, business, cybersecurity, they provide long-term analysis. Unfortunately, this is largely ignored. There was long-term analysis on the threat of Al-Qaeda, but obviously that couldn't translate into preventing a September 11th. There was long-term analysis on the threat of a pandemic. This had been brought up in several testimony and different Gates Foundation presentations and others, but you couldn't really translate that into actually mitigation circumstances for the COVID-19. And there's a lot of reasons for this. The American people have a short attention span, but it's also hard to make decisions on this. It's hard to make funding decisions on let's fund the national stockpile when there's no real threat on the horizon like we saw directly with COVID-19. So I want to take that and just translate that into tactical intelligence and ask the question, what decisions could have been made based on the tactical intelligence that could have mitigated the COVID-19? Some of you might have seen this discussion in a previous class you had with mine, but I think that's a key point here was when we talk about that strategic versus tactical intelligence. Okay, how does that translate into mitigating circumstances? And I'm not convinced that even with the tactical information, that we knew that there was a virus coming, we knew it was in China, there was lockdowns coming, or lockdowns in China, I don't think we could have locked down the country any earlier than March 2020, when it actually happened. People said we missed the intelligence, that coronavirus was an intelligence failure, and that's all possible. But the only or that's all possible, but are you really going to lock down the country in February, tell kids not to go to school and close down businesses and rob people of their livelihood based on what's going on in China? I don't know. I don't think that's feasible. The only thing that I've studied this or looked at this, and the only thing that I think is feasible based on the intelligence is nursing homes. Nursing homes, as you remember back in the first wave of COVID, back in those glory days of March 2020, nursing homes bore the brunt of the COVID virus. And we did have months to prepare in that case. We knew that COVID hit old people, or old people in particular. We knew that it was a respiratory infection. We knew that dense living spaces that you saw in nursing homes would be a issue, and we could have done circumstances in nursing homes, stockpile PPE, prevent nursing home distribution, or nursing people from multiple staffing in nursing homes. That, I think, and I'm not even 100% sure, could have been a mitigating circumstance, but I'll let you decide. And the second part is politicization. A lot of people, you discussed in your voice thread what politicization was. Its bottom line is it's not changing assessments or rewriting assessments. It's essentially putting an inordinate burden on the intelligence community to get an answer that you're looking for that violates their best practices. It's just the nature of intelligence that if you keep asking, where's the WMD in Iraq? Someone will find WMD in Iraq. That's just the nature of intelligence work. There's no definitive answers, so you can find supposition and single reports that confirm your bias. Now that violates best intelligence community practices, but that's the definition of politicization. When you're looking for those data points that prevent normal best practices from occurring. So that's the question. As many of you brought up, intelligence has to be relevant to policymakers. Policymakers can and should be asking questions. So it's not like there's a firm line between the two or this big barrier between the two. But when it gets to a point where you're asking so many questions that it violates best practices, then you've crossed that line of politicization. So that covers kind of week one. Week two, bias, another favorite topic of mine. Bias is really shortcuts that our minds use to get an answer. Affects intelligence, affects business policymakers, doctors, any profession where you don't get a full information, but you have to use your own suppositions and use your own mindsets to kind of fill in the blanks. And that has led to negative consequences. I hope everyone remembers the confessions case study that you had in the intro class and the biases exhibited there that led to the wrongful convictions of 4 people. I will leave you just with this regarding the confessions case study, a question that came up a couple of years ago that the confessions was not bias, but it was evil. It was criminal neglect. That good people suffer biases, but in that case, it was criminally negligent. I'll let you decide on that, and I just want you to think about that as you're reading this or going through this module. Is it bias, or is it something more sinister? So I look forward to your discussions. If there's questions or issues, please let me know.